Here's this week's Moda block. This is number 6, and it's an incredibly versatile block that you can do a lot with. I'm going to show you how to make it, but let me show you the pattern real quick. I'll give you a peek at that. This is called the Favorite Vintage Star, and it has some really great layout possibilities, especially if you play with the colors. And you see that it's available in a 6 and a 12-inch block. And it goes together very easily. There's some great instructions on how to put your block together. And there's a place where you can actually color in and get some different ideas about how you might want to make your own. So let me show you how to make this block. It's a simple one. And I want to show you how this week's number 6 blockhead goes together. And it's a pretty straightforward pattern where we have squares, cut them in half, insert narrow strips, just like this. And by splitting this narrow strip into 2 different colors, then we create a really fun pattern here. And this, I want to show you, I have all my squares put together, but I want to show you how to trim these. And you want this to measure 6 inches. You start with a 6-inch square and cut it in half, and then you add your 1.5-inch strip, which makes up the difference for that seam allowance, and it also makes sure that you get your full 6-inch square when you're finished. So after you sew your 2 seams, so you can see I have these pressed to the center, and that's just going to make it a little bit easier. If I lay this on my mat, you can see that I'm at about 6 1/4 inches. So I have about 1/4 of an inch, which means about 1/8 of an inch from each edge that I want to trim. So that's kind of a place to start. I'm going to use my square ruler, and I'm going to use the 45-degree line, and it goes from corner to corner. There are oftentimes other lines that are on here, but we want to make sure that we stay with the 45. And we want that 45 to line up in the center between these 2 seams. And you can kind of eyeball it. If you feel more comfortable with it, you can certainly use the 45-degree lines on your mat. But this worked out really well for me. The big thing is you want to make sure that this corner is within the fabric. You don't want to be cutting and not have enough corner here. So you have some movement with this going back and forth to make sure that that doesn't happen. So again, my 45 is going right down the center. I'm making sure I'm inside my square there. I'm inside my square here, and I'm down the center. And everything looks really good. Now, not each side is going to be even when you trim this, because our seam allowances can vary, and because we're using bias cuts, sometimes that just makes a difference. So we're going to cut 2 sides, and you see I have my hands holding the square sort of like a spider. I got my fingers spread out. That just makes sure that I get a good grip and nothing slips on me. And so again, I'm going to line up this corner, making sure everything is right where it needs to be, and that this corner's in the middle and I'm not losing anything. And just trim this off. There we go. So there's our finished square. And you did get a little bit of a blunt nose, but that's okay. That'll get taken care of in the seam allowance. Now, once we get to this point, we want to start sewing our blocks together. And we join them this way with a narrow 1.5-inch strip and then a small block on the end. This is actually 1.5 square. And I'm going to sew it to this one and then sew it to this one. And you can see that on here. Oops, let me close that blade, where these are sewn together from one end to the other. And again, I press the seams towards the center. You can go either way with that. The reason I wanted to go to the center is because with the way the fabric folds under, it sort of lifts this white pattern strip up and makes it a little more prominent, and that's kind of what I'm going for. I want that to be the piece that really stands out. So then I add the long strip that's going to join the two halves together. I'll put that together right here, and then join it at the center. It's a very simple block to put together, and it can be a lot of fun playing with the colors, with the contrast. You see I made each corner a different blue. They're all very similar, but just to kind of change up the background a little bit, I thought that was fun. This is oftentimes can look like a snowflake. And if you like the blue and white or the blue and silver Christmas quilts, this would be a lot of fun, having this be a little sparkly and have that, midnight blue background. I just think that would be pretty. But then again, you get into the reds and greens with the white snowflakes, that works too. So there's a lot of fun you can do with that. You can also do a spring quilt. This could be a flower, and you can put a little center in the middle. I like that idea myself because this is a quick block to put together. You could make a bunch of these pretty fast. All right, so let me get the finished block and show you what it looks like. Here's our finished block. It looks great. It's a fun detailing with these narrow strips. You can do a lot with that. There's a lot you can do with color. So this can be a lot of fun. And the other thing I didn't mention is you have these extra little strips out here that are done in the same color as the block, but think of the fun you could have sort of doing an ombre or things like that. So this can be a really creative block to play with. And I just want to show you on the back how this goes together. It gives you an idea of where the seams are. I press everything towards the narrow strip, and it came out beautifully. I'm really happy with this. So I hope you enjoyed this block. I hope you give it a try. Be sure to download the free copy that Moda has for you. As always, it's a pleasure to share my quilting with you. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a great day.